Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to take a look at using Subassembly Composer to create a custom subassembly that will allow us to select a particular type of object, in this case a curb type. So we're going to have a single subassembly, but when we get into Civil 3D, it will allow us to select which option of curb or type of curb that we'd like to apply. So in this case, we're going to use a switch and we're going to use an enumeration list. So let's get started. So I have a blank subassembly here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to View, Define Enumeration. And let's create an enumeration group, and we'll call it Curb Type. And my first type will just be A. We're going to keep this very simple, and B. Now, one disclaimer, this is not always the best way to do it. A lot of people would like one single subassembly for every option of a curb or a barrier or something like that, or a wall, and that's fine. This is just another option if you'd like the control where you have one subassembly that has multiple conditions in it. So next thing we're going to do is go to the input-output parameters. We're going to create a new parameter. Under type, now you can see we have the type curb type. So there's our enumeration list. Now we're going to type a name, and let's just call this select curb. And that's going to be important. Our name here in just a second. The default value you see is A, so this will allow us to test it later. And I'll go ahead and go on my packet settings and change this to curb selection. That'll be the name of the subassembly. So let's get started. I'm going to start point at my origin just as always. And now we're going to immediately drag a switch in. Move this up a bit. Apologize for the resolution. And now under switch, we're going to type an expression in. And the way this works is we basically need to use the name of the enumeration, which in this case is select curve, not the name that we created in the enumeration group, but the parameter we're naming it. So the input parameter is called select curve. And then to grab the value, the expression is going to be dot and value with a capital V. And if you'd like more information on this, if you go to the help file under the expressions API area, it will show you the enumeration or how to call an enumeration with the dot value. Okay, so now we're ready. So for the first, we'll just do a simple rectangular curb. And again, I could put these in sequences if I like to clean this up, but I'm going to go real cheap here and basically just drop these in manually. Now notice the first, when I drag in the first part of a switch, the default, it tries to create a default switch. In other words, if it finds none of your other choices, do this by default. I really don't want that. So what I'm going to do is select that leg, and I'm going to turn off that it is the default case. So you can see my resolutions making it kind of tough to see, but in any case, I'll move this over a bit. Sometimes if you select this, if you've been selecting points, you select here and nothing will show up. The key there is just to click back on the switch and then click back on the case. So the first case, I'm going to name this A because that is one of the two values that I'd like to use in the switch. And so point 2, we're going to go down delta XY from P1. We'll do a minus 0.5. I'm sorry, 0 on the X, minus 0.5 on the Y. And we will create a link. Now one nice thing here is you'll know your switch is working immediately because my default is A. I'm within A on the switch. If nothing's drawing here, you know you've got a problem. And sometimes you may not even have a warning on the switch. So for example, when I set my switch to B, notice there's nothing happening because I have no criteria for B. But just remember, if you start drawing your switch and you're set to the default value and nothing's happening, may as well stop because you've got some type of error, or it could just be something typed in incorrectly. So let's keep going. On this side, I'm going to go place another point. Just going to do a simple rectangle here. And I'll do 0.5 in the X, 0 in the Y. Now we'll go 1 foot up in the Y. Hit the screen. Good, we'll keep going. And now we'll go in the X minus 0.5. And now we can just drag a simple link in to close from 0.5 to 0.1. And for good measure, we'll drag a shape and click the selector in the middle. Done. So there's our first condition. Now let's go, we're going to now go with another switch or another switch option. So I need to delete that arrow because it's going to try to connect. And then I'll connect these two. Notice how I tried to make that one default as well. I'll set that back to no, that's not the default. I just want A or B. I want to keep this simple. Now I'm going to switch the default on the input parameters to B so I can see if this is working. So now from 6, we're going to go from 0.1. And we're going to go down on minus 0.5. See, that's working over in the preview. That's a really good sign. And now let's place another point. We'll go 1.5 for the bottom. And again, I'm just doing something quick and dirty. By no means do these dimensions mean anything. So we'll go up delta Y, we'll go up 1. Hit the screen. Another point, we'll go minus 0.5. Drag a point in, we'll go down minus 0.5. Good, and now we can close with a link. Be P10 to P1. Good. You can see we have a flat gutter there. That's okay. Just for our testing. Shape code, click in the shape, done. So our switch looks good. I'll just leave the default set to A. You can see when I click on the switch, it changes. Again, so we have our input parameter calling out our enumeration. That's good. We have a name for our subassembly. Let's save it. I'll call it curb selection. I like to match my name here with the subassembly, the external, internal and external name. That's just me. Now let's test it. Civil 3D, I've got my test lanes here. This is my assembly, and I have a cross section here on the right just so we can see it. So let's import that subassembly. There's curb selection. Right click, refresh image. Now I'm going to select it, go into this window, drop it here, and escape. I'll right click, rebuild my corridor. Not that it matters, but we can see it in the corridor. All right, so now let's click on the subassembly and look at our properties. After all, that's what our goal here was to have some control here in the properties. So here's our selector now. So our input value is A. I want to change that to B. Hit OK. Now you can see we have the other curb. Right click on the corridor, rebuild. So again, I just wanted to show a quick way to set up your selections if you'd like to build a single subassembly with maybe slight variations and maybe you wanted to control what your users could see. Maybe they needed a lot of options, but you don't want them tweaking the actual values. So you can see using this method, all they have to do is go to the subassembly properties, into the parameters, and select which one they would like. I hope this video has been beneficial. Have a great day.